Greetings folks, Dave Aschenbrenner back again. Welcome back to my channel, and I would like to thank all my patrons and customers for purchasing AR3s. And I had a customer ask a question about the front end steering ratio, and I thought I would go over that in this video. And we're going to see what that moving the all of the control points around on the front end, what that does with the control of the steering. And I want to just start out by saying it's all a series of levers and fulcrums. So if that makes any sense, we're going to explain it while we go through this right now. So let's get started. Okay, as you know, the AR3 is the steering design is centered around what we call a lean steer on it. The amount of lean is fixed by the angle of the neck on here. So that's not going to change the tilt of the front wheels. And just a little reminder to everybody, to steer this, you put weight right here on this side or on this side of the trike. I'm barely pushing down. This is the steering. This is the steering control. I've got this set pretty tight right here for high speed, so it's the clutch is all the way engaged on this one. However, this would just flop back and forth if I were to loosen that clutch. Another point with this is some riders will get on this as demonstrated at our demo rides, and some people will get on it and they will take their hands off the handlebars and they'll steer this thing without their hands on the bars. And other people will complain that it's real heavy, the front end feels real heavy on it. And what I've determined is they're not controlling it with their lower, with their butt here. I call it a tip. You're tipping up on putting pressure on this cheek, on your butt, and that's kind of what's steering it. A lot of people will sit on here like they've learned to do riding their standard recumbent, and they'll bend their spine. They'll bend their spine, and that will help a little bit. You're getting weight shifted over to this side of the trike, but in a lot of cases you compensate when you push this over this. When you push your spine and your top of your body over this weight, you're actually pushing on this side of the bike while you're doing that. So you're, in essence, equalizing that. And I think that's really the core little secret, or I would say advice, that I give people when I'm right there with them and they have a problem with the handling. I can kind of examine what they're doing and give them some pointers. And everybody that wants this to work can make it work. So, and it's also your leverage that you have on the steering right here. You have leverage on that front steering. And I'll leave a link. I'll leave a link up here to at least one video that I've made instructing how to lean and where to put your weight. You have to be cognizant and conscious of where you're putting your weight on this thing. So we're going to get into a little different subject today. I thought I'd mention that though, because that's all a really big part of it. And we have adjustments on all of these pivot points and the leverage on the front tie rods. So we're going to get into that right now. Okay, so we're going to look at this. This is the best explanation for how this front end works. You have a lever. This control box would be the lever right here. This would be the fulcrum. In a teeter-totter, the center pivot is a fulcrum. The further away from this you gain a mechanical advantage. In other words, it's easier to steer it. However, with the adjustment up at the top, you're going to get less movement. And at the bottom, you're going to get more movement, but you'll have more leverage on the fulcrum itself. The center pivot is fixed. It's at a fixed angle, so that never changes in relationship to your front yoke. So the only thing you can change here is the placement of this tie rod end. And the further forward you get with this tie rod end, as you can see when your steering comes toward you, let's just when your steering comes toward you, this rod, if it's up front here, will push further. As your front end is coming closer to this rod will extend further in relationship to the frame itself. If you put it to the back side of it, you'll now gain leverage on it, and the wheel won't tilt as much. So you'll get more tilt because you're shortening up the distance between here and here, and the distance between here and here is almost neutral. This is almost neutral back here. And as you can see, I've got it in the center hole. I found this to be the best for the type of riding I do. Now I urge anyone who feels that either the wheels aren't tilting far enough, of course you're going to feel a little more heavy. The front end's going to feel a little heavier. You want to lighten up the front end. You put it in the back hole here, but it's I don't want to use the word unstable, but I think at higher speeds you may want it in the front or from the middle to the front. This is kind of a neutral spot here. I found that to be pretty good, and I gave a couple holes on both sides of that neutral spot for anyone who wants to experiment with it. I do have different size tie rods, so if you want a shorter tie rod to get to the end of this and to the top of this hole, whatever you want to do, I've got them in stock here. And I've also got, if you take note, this is also in a neutral spot here. To lighten up the front end feel on here, the first thing you would do is you would take this, leave the center neutral hole, move this down to the bottom. You'll gain a mechanical advantage by doing that, and your steering won't feel quite as heavy. And then your next step would be, after you do that, you want to experiment further, start moving the tie rod end on the anchor plate back toward the back of the bike. So I hope that clarifies it. I would also urge that you put some appreciative miles on it. I want to say my wife, for the first time, rode one of these, and she was a little uneasy about it, and I kind of talked her through it. She loves it now. She got off her Red Rover and rides it exclusively now. She loves this. So I would urge anyone just to practice, practice, practice. It's like welding or anything else. Just keep practicing until you get better and better at it, and after a while it'll come real natural. So I urge anyone with any questions or comments to put them in the comments section below, and I will answer them as soon as I get the message. Hope this clears that up. Dave Aschenbrenner, thanks for stopping by.